Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Mortanius, and we are back with some more Vampyr on the PS5. Time of recording is 12:08 a.m. Friday, December 27th, 2024. Sorry, it would have been on at the designated pre-time. Twitch was doing what it likes to do a lot of the times. So here we are once again. When we last left off, we had began a very new / interesting journey as a member of the life challenge, we'll say. Managed to work our way around the particular area that we had started in, and had severe problems with sight. Come to find out, we could barely make out any detail whatsoever, and we were so very thirsty. What we were able to see, though, is that there seems to be an interesting pulse that seems to move through individuals. Enthralling, really. We had a serious need to determine what was going on and, if possible, clear up our sight. Same sight you see here. We managed to finally do so and satiate our thirst as well, but come to find out, we kind of turned our sister into a 1918 Capri Sun. So, once we had laid her to rest, mistakenly, we had to play the escape game, because apparently there's quite a few people looking for, what was it they called us? Leeches? So there that was. And discovered that apparently us men of science are, seemingly, at least partly, maybe kind of a little bit, possibly mystical. But having managed to escape and finally disagree with ourselves one final time, we awoke to a pretty devastated city, excuse me. Apparently the Spanish flu, as they called it at the time, is running rampant throughout the city. And apparently there's also more creatures like me, as well as different. And there are people trying to kill them. This individual, this Dr. Swansea right here, we had met up with him, and he gave us a bit of information on what was going on, as well as what we were somewhat dealing with, but he was extremely vague. Managed to track down the individual we thought might have done harm to us, and come to find out it wasn't him or her, but they were an extremely dangerous individual that we had to stop. Not so much that was the goal, but, well, they were hungry. Apparently the doctor was following us. And having dealt with that, he finally clarified that he's with a brotherhood, an organization of individuals who may be more privy to the details of what's going on here. But he figured he'd help us out as well as have us help him out. Gave us a job here at the Pembroke Hospital in London. It'll allow us to help him and the staff here deal with any patients, as well as allow us to use facilities for proper research and determine what it is that, or why it is we are. So if you folks like what you're seeing, want to see more of me after that extremely long intro, give me a like, follow, subscribe here on YouTube or both. Drop a comment, check out some of the other playlists, share around some of the other playlists, bang the bell. Follow the links to my Twitch to get to my YouTube. Follow the links to my YouTube to get to my Twitch. And wherever you folks happen to be, have yourselves a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night, and get comfortable. Let's get into this. I don't want y'all to miss this next little bit. It's extremely interesting. Don't really do spoilers like that, but it kind of clarified itself already.
Nah, it's my turn. Rotten or pristine, each heart contains the seeds of life. Drink at this river, dry it all.
Gosh, that hurts.
Oh, come on, you bastard. I won't bite.
Sir, please. You've lost too much blood. Calm yourself.
You think I didn't notice? Stop your staring and get me to an hospital, you arse.
Always did love that line. I won't bite. You and I both know I might. But you should be more polite, Mr. Cox. You never know who you might run across in these dark, dark alleys.
Insulting a good Samaritan. Not exactly the way to get rescued.
All right, sorry. I am in pain here. My guts are spilling out onto the street and you're yabbering on.
Yes. That's a very nasty wound you've got there. Take my word, I am a doctor. Dr. Jonathan Reed.
Name's Clay Cox. I'd appreciate you helping me to a better place, Doc.
Follow me, Mr. Cox. Let me assist you to that better place.
I can promise you it is not a problem. Blood quality. Blood quality indicates how much XP you will attain from a particular citizen. The higher the blood quality, the more XP you get. Mesmerize. To drink the blood of your prey, you first need to mesmerize them to lead them out of sight from others. Your mesmerize level must be equal or higher than the citizen's resistance. L1 to mesmerize Clay. Now, whenever you're in these conversations, you can still move around as you see. You can always bring up these details in the upper right hand corner if you just want to see his health and the XP and all of that. You see up under his health / above his health actually, the healthy statement, he has the magnifying glasses. So he has at least 4 things we can learn about him to make his XP better. Top left, you have his level and your level, respectively. This is the number that I spoke of last episode of what is based on your mesmerization. So as you saw, we did deal with individuals even with as high as level 6 mesmerization. So, yeah.
Bring this fading light into the shadows. Dance with him the dance of life and death.
Follow the red trail to lead your prey into the shadows. Blood temptation. Press X to embrace Clay Cox or circle to release him. Embracing Clay will provide a massive XP boost, but be aware that there will be consequences. Learning more about citizens and collecting their hints will increase the experience gained. Now, two things. One,
No more. Not tonight. Not like this. I will not take another life.
merciful release. Let Clay live during your first meeting with him. First, you never feed immediately. Yes, you can lock on to him. Second, I actually titled this playthrough Bloodless, effectively. What that effectively means is I won't be drinking anybody this time around. You'll find when it comes to my playthroughs, initially more often than not, I'll do the non-lethal thing before I do the lethal thing. Non-lethal tends to be harder, more fun. Same time though, I've also played a lethal run of this game, and it,
It is wise for the huntsman to sometimes let his prey go, but no famished hunter can run for long.
Let's just say the hunt brings with it its own satisfaction. Could have took the path that Dr. Swansea and Nurse Crane were at. That's who you saw over there on the steps. But I would have had to have done what I just did. You have to do the whole Clay Cox thing first as an introduction to drinking and mesmerization. I wonder if you can meet the doctors before you're Nope, you can't. Never mind. Oh. Yes, you can. Okay. I don't want to do that, though. I just wanted to see if you could. Well, I'll need you to wait a moment, dear nurse. And of course, not here, but the one who was speaking to me is the same nurse who was down there with Dr. Swansea. Let me slow down. Let me slow it down. My exploration brain had already kicked in.
Come on, I don't have all night.
I have a funny feeling you do.
Doctor, where have you been? I've little time to play hide and seek with new staff members, no matter how illustrious they may be.
I found a wounded man by the docks. He answers to the name of Clay Cox. He requires urgent medical attention.
Already making the rounds? That's the Pembroke spirit. I'll ask our porter, Milton, to bring him back immediately.
Thank you, nurse. What can I do for you?
Dr. Swansea insisted we provide you a quiet office. You'll find it on the second floor with your name on the door.
Thank you. Nurse Crane, isn't it?
Yes, Dorothy Crane. Welcome to Pembroke Hospital, Dr. Reed. Your office has been prepared.
Well, thank you. Like how she went from, what is wrong with this high-profile person who likes to be seen, to, oh, okay, well, I mean, hey, putting in that work. I ain't got nothing else to say about it. At least she understood the reality. And in the end, why would it matter? Why would I be running off anyway? Don't we have a epidemic right now?
I would like to ask a few questions first. And Mr. Hampton, the patient we brought in, how does he fare?
I gave him a sedative to help him sleep. Poor thing was in quite a state of shock.
Might have asked that out of order, seeing as how he started with the word "and." You said my room was on the second floor, but where precisely?
If you could point me in the direction of my room again, nurse.
Second floor of the hospital, left after the stairs. It's the last vacant office at the end of the corridor.
Right. Thank you.
What kind of man is Dr. Swansea?
Well, you accepted the job from him. I thought you would have known about your employer.
Just met him. I literally just met him.
Apologies, I've only just met him the once. This is sudden. I've only just returned to England.
Dr. Swansea is a brilliant surgeon and the most compassionate physician.
Okay. So he's qualified, like legit qualified, and they respect, at least she respects him.
It's right to assume Dr. Swansea knows far more about me than I do about him.
You'll get to know him soon enough, and better than me. The administrator has better things to do than mix with us.
Something I just remembered. When you deal with anybody in this game that you talk to, sometimes the hints you receive, sometimes they'll be based on themselves, but sometimes the hints that they give you are based on other individuals around them.
Thank you, Nurse Crane.
So if you can, have every conversation you can. I mentioned it last episode, but this game is very talky. Due to the influenza, this hospital can no longer take any patients. Hospital full. Please go back home. I mean, they can, but they can't. They take whoever they can when they can, but they don't have the numbers or like the space. I mean, Jesus, they're all out here. At least these ones. Now, there's more. You'll see. You'll see as we go. What was it about?
Good evening, sir.
So it is true. The famous Dr. Reed has joined us. I can't think of any better news during these terrible times.
Do we know each other?
Actually, yes. We met once before, at the Rockefeller University in New York.
Dr. Tippett, yes, I remember. I was assisting Professor Carell in his research about coronary bypasses. He had nothing but praise for you.
He was also very confident about your future. And look at you now. Eminent surgeon and blood transfusion specialist.
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett.
We made the mistake of splitting the pole, Doctor.
Good evening, Dr. Tippett.
Dr. Reed, any good news to share?
No, not really. Hold L2, and you'll see your level relative to whoever it is you're thinking about mesmerizing. Touchpad for the details, naturally. As you can see at the bottom left, he's connected to somebody we haven't spoken to yet. Now, I know pretty much all the connections. It's just based on memory, but there are some that will take some work. Interesting.
What is the Pembroke Hospital situation? And please, speak freely.
This hospital is not exactly the best of London. I'm sure you are used to working in a better environment.
It is what it is. I don't care about the environment so long as I have people who are competent or at least competent enough, and we're getting the resources we need. If we're not, then we make do, but I don't care where I'm at. People need help. People need help.
It's more than enough. In any case, the personnel of a hospital are much more important to me than the building.
Don't be misled by appearances, Dr. Reed. This hospital does not lack talented people. It just lacks hope.
I can respect that. And as you can see, of course, we have hints about him that we don't have. Or there are hint choices that we don't have access to.
What can you tell me about the staff in the hospital?
Some are really good, and others are not so good. But during this troubled period, there is no time for slander. I prefer to focus on the positive character traits.
Well, would it be slander or would it be truth? And if you speak about them not being so good, is it that they're incapable or they're just not like if we're talking about levels, there's 50 levels. let's say the ones that you consider to be good are, say, at level 40. The ones not are like a level 15, level 20 or something. Like, is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about like complete and utter incompetency? And then if you're talking about incompetency, is it because of nepotism, or because you quite literally need bodies for like a job, and there's no real choice considering there's the influenza going around?
Tell me more about cherished people, then.
Nurse Brannigan is a pearl. She is the most helpful and dedicated nurse I've ever worked with. A clever and cheerful woman.
You really seem to admire her skills.
I'll go even further. If she was a man, she would be a damn fine practitioner.
I can respect that. You know, it's funny, a lot of people would probably hear that thought process and get triggered by it. And he's not saying, like, I'm a man, so I'm better. No, what he's saying is, considering the time, with her skill level, she'd have a doctorate. Or, well, I'm not sure if nurses would need doctorates. They probably do. But she'd have a doctor's coat and a doctor's position, is what he's saying. Different time frame. Yeah. The women have always worked. It's not necessarily in a what's the word? Some would say it was completely oppressive that women weren't like, say, doctors or things like that. But others would say the reason why women weren't doctors is because women didn't have the responsibility that came with things when things went wrong. And neither side would be wrong, but if we're leaning on one side or the other, the second argument is the one that wins more for me. Not willing to be proven wrong, but
Any opinion about the management?
I don't always agree with Dr. Swansea's reserve, but I must admit he does all he can to keep this facility running during this crisis.
Ah, yes, the burden of command. I was fed up with this concept while serving as a medical officer.
Don't get me wrong. Swansea's a good administrator. I just wish he would get out of his office now and again.
I can respect that. Burdens of command are an uncomfortable aspect, but they're also a true aspect. They don't exist for no reason. And you say Swansea should get out of his office more often. I can respect that, but he may not have the time. But again, I have no idea how you folks function around here. But if you notice, when we were talking about Nurse Brannigan, we got details about her at the bottom left, as well as details about him. He's convinced that Gwyneth Brannigan is overqualified as a nurse. Swap to her, she's overqualified as a nurse, according to Corcoran Tippets. So sometimes the tips you learn will outright be like connections to other tips, not necessarily like something directly from them.
Goodbye, Dr. Tippets.
Ah, you. Oh, nope.
At
Misinterpreted
least
the
that
individual.
Mistress of the Dark has stopped following me.
You misinterpreted who I was looking at. I thought I was looking at another nurse.
Good evening, nurse. I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed, the new surgeon here at the Pembroke.
Dr. Swansea has already told us about you, sir. I'm Nurse Gwyneth Brannigan. Welcome to the Pembroke Hospital.
Did he really? It's a good thing I wasn't hoping to keep a low profile.
All members of staff have already read about your new blood transfusion technique.
Jesus
Dr.
Christ.
Swansea made sure of that.
I see. Well, I'm a little surprised, but I suppose I'll just have to deal with this unexpected notoriety.
You must know, blood transfusions are Dr. Swansea's primary subject of research. He is convinced it is the future.
Well, it is a future. I can definitely respect that, and especially considering what's going on right now. Awareness of blood transfusion will be of extreme use.
How are things here?
Not good, to say the least. We're struggling against an invisible enemy, more lethal than any bullet from a gun. It's hard, Doctor.
Yeah, it's funny. I was gonna say the invisible enemy, and it actually is up here. Forgot that one.
An invisible enemy. Quite a poetic term for a disease, especially from a nurse.
Sorry, Doctor. These last few weeks have been exhausting. We could all do with a good night's sleep.
Checking something. His statement right there. I don't know why medical professionals do that. I've heard that before. From, let me see, who was it? I heard that before from scientists as well as like outright medical practitioners. They hate bringing poetry into what they're doing. I can only assume that they hate romanticizing it, and I can respect that. They want to keep as much bias out of it as possible. But sometimes, like poetry, reality writes itself. Be uncomfortable if you want to.
Do you think this hospital can survive the epidemic?
We are all volunteers here, and we're trying to hold fast, but how do we beat an invisible killer? Some nurses have already resigned.
Yeah, I can respect that.
I'm not familiar with all the staff yet. Perhaps you could help me.
Brilliant professionals, most of them. Dr. Swansea has a gift for recruiting talent.
Most of them. Is there a problem I should know about, nurse?
It would be inappropriate for me to speak ill of a colleague.
But you're gonna.
Is there anyone that stands out?
Well, I have never met someone as dedicated as Dr. Tippets. He should be a standard for us all here. If only he were younger.
Why should his age be a problem?
I guess it's fair to say he's always pushing himself to the limits. He just doesn't know when to stop and get some rest.
Yeah. It can be problematic. Corcoran is exhausting himself and refuses to stop working.
Nurse Brannigan, if you do know something, please tell me. Anything you say will be held in confidence.
No. I may disagree with some conduct, but in the end, everybody is doing their best.
Okay. So fraternizations, but everybody's working. And now ain't the time to be splitting hairs when there's basically an apocalypse roaming the streets. I can respect it. And then here's the hint from Tippets.
Why does Dr. Tippets claim you're the main reason he keeps working, despite his fatigue?
If it wasn't for him, I probably would have left the Pembroke years ago.
Dr. Tippets does not think of you as just a nurse anymore, does he?
If you're suggesting he's not taking my gender into consideration when it comes to medical practice and knowledge, I really hope he doesn't.
Well, not to be fair, unfair, or in between, but there are aspects of the way both sides work that are gonna come to the same. We're gonna run the same race, but from different directions. We'll come to the same end, but we're not gonna see the same thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Goodbye, nurse. Call me if you need assistance.
It's one of the reasons why our species is complementary. Spot that? Keep track of that glint. It's extremely important. That is actually kind of irritating. It would happen now.
Dr. Swansea is right.
How am I
This
supposed to
place
actually
seems
do
perfect
this?
to conduct my research.
That's not gonna work like this. Excuse me. It's okay. I'm gonna have to sort of leave some of this behind, folks. This particular moment is, well, particular. I'm having to remember things, and the memory is not memorying right now, but that's okay. I saw what I needed to see.
Scour voices in the garden. I should investigate.
Worst
If they were to
time.
find somebody.
Now, as you saw, that glint of his showed up. There's a reason why he disappeared. So what's happening? Now he's working his way up here. When you see that glint, you almost want to abandon pretty much whatever you're doing and do your best to find wherever it wants you to go. It is a little complicated at times, but it matters a great deal. While we're waiting, I got to give it to the voice actor, the guy Anthony Howell. Very good voice actor. I always did like his voice in this role. It fits perfectly. As a matter of fact, pretty much every voice I've come across in this game, it fits the voice perfectly. Alright, so check this out.
Damn it! Why is this so difficult every time? That is better. That is better. I will make it through one more night.
Corcoran is a drug addict. Always keep track of those secrets, as well as those instances, folks. You never know what you may learn. Now, let me return to the hospital real quick. Corcoran, buddy.
Good evening, Dr. Tippett.
Dr. Reed, any good news to share?
Don't know, man. Don't know, but I do have a question.
You're exhausting yourself, Corcoran. Maybe you should think about preserving your strength.
No. We must keep on healing all those poor souls. We are the last rampart before chaos. Once more unto the breach.
You sure you don't want to preserve your strength for me? I can respect what he's doing, but he is irresponsible with with the attitude. I mean, hell, ain't nothing worse than being half asleep in the middle of doing something. He's falling asleep potentially in the midst of like taking care of patients. It's not about proving. I don't think that's what this issue is. And bringing up Nurse Brannigan is not a good move, because it brings attention to others who actually feel for him. And while it matters that they feel for him, it's not really my business like that.
Your attitude is irresponsible, Doctor. Believe me, I've seen so many medical errors caused by exhaustion during the war.
You're right. This is a war, Dr. Reed, and I don't intend to surrender.
And I don't intend to let you, Doctor. But the point remains.
I know you're taking drugs, Corcoran. Why take such a risk?
I needed to endure the long shifts. We have no idea how long the epidemic will last. We can't let it win.
That's one thing I always loved about those hints. If you notice when I drop them, it's like I incorporate my power into my voice. And then when people answer me, it's almost like they're under a hypnotic spell somewhat. Almost as if they have no way to control their thoughts or defenses. Either way. He's already doing it. He's already got it in his system. It's irresponsible, but not really. The irresponsibility is him not resting. The only irresponsible part here is to himself. Because what he's saying is basically it's keeping him awake. So the only irresponsibleness to it, this is to himself and those that care for him. Beyond that, it could be a long-term solution, and he could be fired. He's not really concerned about being fired. I'm not concerned about him being fired either. But if he's fired, then he's not here at the Pembroke helping.
I understand the gesture, Doctor. An immediate answer to an emergency situation. But this can't be a long-term solution.
Thank you for your understanding, my dear colleague. And be assured, I have total control of my consumption.
You may for now, but that's the thing about consumption. Eventually, you turn into the one consumed.
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett. Good evening, nurse.
Good evening, Doctor. I don't think we've been introduced yet. My name is Pippa Hawkins.
And I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. Dr. Swansea has recently offered me a position in this hospital.
Well, it's a euphemism that your help will be appreciated, Doctor.
Nice to meet you, Nurse Pippa.
How would you describe the situation at the Pembroke Hospital?
It's serious. The flu is wreaking havoc amongst the staff and patients. We are running out of everything.
I want to warn you folks, when I said this game is talky, and when I also made it a point to title this episode Introduction to Pembroke, I meant that this episode is more than likely going to be a lot of talking. Just a heads up.
Nurse Hawkins, the Spanish flu won't last forever. Even the Black Plague didn't kill everyone.
I wish I could believe you. But what if this epidemic was worse? What if in the end, nobody was spared?
Well, if more of what I'm dealing with is roaming the streets, then this epidemic is going to be worse. In terms of the plague itself, it's hard to say. The Black Plague killed 1% of humanity. That is an estimation between 25 million and 50 million people. So we're not talking about some small numbers here.
You must get a hold of yourself, nurse.
Sorry, I'm exhausted. No one has any idea when this epidemic will be over.
I can respect that. Just take your time when you can. Relax when you can. Got herself a connection.
How long have you been a nurse?
Well, long enough to see that the epidemic is winning. And no matter how qualified you are, don't tell me you'll change that.
I'm one person. I might be able to change it. I might not be able to. I'm just a dude. Alright. But what I'll say is that you would honestly be surprised. You never know when I might just be monkey wrench enough, or not monkey wrench enough. Wouldn't say it from a position of arrogance, but I may be the one thing that brings y'all the things that y'all need to do your job, and so on and so forth.
You'd be surprised what dedication can achieve, Nurse Hawkins. In medicine, sometimes we're just a test result away from a miracle.
Sorry, Doctor. I don't want to sound bitter, but I'm just too tired to give a pep talk like Nurse Brannigan.
Yes, I can respect that you're tired. No pep talk, so on and so forth. The reality remains.
How is the Pembroke staff coping with the epidemic?
Well, not well. Milton, the ambulance driver, is even more grumpy than usual, especially concerning doctors.
What's his issue with doctors?
Why is Milton grumpy on a daily basis? Is it just an act?
Milton's not the kind of man who's bothered about a bad reputation, whether he deserved it or not.
Okay. Milton's reputation is mediocre among his colleagues.
Why does Milton dislike doctors?
I don't know. Just ask him. But be warned, Milton is not the chatty type.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
But the suffering continues.
The daily routine.
Okay. And here we have my favorite.
Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reed, the new surgeon at the Pembroke Hospital. And who are you?
Your name has no meaning to me, mortal. You're nothing but dust blown by the winds of eternity.
I beg your pardon?
What are you begging for, mortal? My clemency? Well, tonight maybe I'm inclined to mercy. You'll never forget the night you met Thelma Howcroft.
You keep calling me mortal. Why is that? And if I'm mortal, what are you?
Well, Dr. Reed, if you must know, I'm a vampire.
Oh boy. All right.
And why do you believe you're a vampire?
I don't need to believe anything. It is what I am. It is what I feel within this hollow shell of flesh.
Ma'am, I need you to stand up.
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
I wish I could be sick again. Feel my blood boil with the fever.
Fear and disgust on every street corner. The daily routine.
Sick again. I do not remember that line. Okay, I guess you're not going to be getting up.
Good evening, Miss Howcroft. How are you tonight?
I need blood, Doctor. Warm, rich, vibrant blood.
Much easier to see your face, but...
And why do you believe you're a vampire?
I don't need to believe anything. It is what I...
Please, describe to me how you feel. What is it like to be a vampire?
I can hear my body crumble from the inside as my flesh cracks and fades. I sense the last pulse of postulant blood within my drying veins. I need new blood.
Interesting. That is an interesting sensation set she just described right there.
I see. Have you ever heard of Cotard syndrome, Miss Howcroft?
Never.
It's a mental illness discovered by a French neurologist named Jules Cotard. The affected patients are delusional. They believe that they are putrefying, that they are dead, a ghost or a ghoul, or in your case, a vampire.
Delusional, you say? Oh, sad and petty mortal. You can't even begin to understand the concept of immortality. And you think it is I who am delusional.
Thelma is affected by the Cotard syndrome and believes she is a vampire. She's definitely got the facial structure of what you see as a vampire in most stories. Tell you that. Like, not even insulting, like legit. Look like she'll bite you and wear you out. There was a woman some years back who had some sort of mental disorder, and I don't remember what it was, but she believed that she needed legitimately to be blind. So she ran around her house finding anything she can to pour down her eyes, and she did. And she won. Yay! She's blind. Don't know what was up with her. But I mean, I guess she was happy. Memory serves, I think there was somebody who wanted their limbs removed, and they got that too. Oh, well, yes, apparently it's an actual diagnosis. Body Integrity Identity Disorder, or BIID, where they have a persistent desire to remove a healthy limb because their mental image of their body doesn't match their physical reality, causing them to feel incomplete without the amputation. A rare and complex mental issue. That's wild. You don't feel complete unless you're missing something.
I'm assuming you must be a patient here. Am I right, Miss Howcroft?
It's only a cover. To hide from my enemies. I can leave whenever I want. As a woman, a spirit, fog, or bat.
Who are these enemies you mentioned? Can you describe them?
I cannot say for sure. But I sense their eyes on me from nearby. I feel them watching me every time I visit the garden near the morgue.
Okay.
The staff here are not your enemy. They're here to help you, to care for you.
I'm not speaking of the doctors in white. I'm speaking of the men and women who hunt me. For I am a vampire.
I see. Don't worry. These people will not find you here. I'll personally make sure they leave you alone.
Thank you, mortal. But do not interfere with them, for you are no match for those that hunt me.
New investigation. Wrong target. And yes, she did just give us a mission.
Who are you really, Miss Howcroft? I mean, apart from being a vampire.
Is that not enough for you, puny mortal? What do you require? Proof of my powers?
I'm curious to know who you were before becoming a vampire.
No, such a long time ago, I don't remember. Centuries of unholy life can have strange effects on one's minds, you see?
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
I wonder what your last thoughts would be, sir.
Damn. The pain. It's here again.
Good evening, sir. Can I help you?
Unless you're here to fix my face. No. I don't think you can help me.
I'm Dr. Reed. I've recently taken the position of head surgeon here. War injuries, am I right?
You guessed right, Doctor. German shell took my pretty little mug right off. But they still call me Thomas Elwood.
How is your stay with us, Mr. Elwood?
Oh, it's bliss. I just escaped death in the trenches to be surrounded again by the moans of the dying.
Can I ask you precisely why you're a patient here?
It's the pain, sir. The drugs don't work. It just hurts under the scars, if you get my drift.
Who is treating you? Is someone in particular looking after your case?
Nobody since the old and tired doctor spoke to me. Started to think I was forgotten about. Wouldn't blame you.
You don't seem worried by that.
My face hurts so much more when I smile or cry. I've learned it's easier not to speak. But be assured I'm smiling inside.
Can I do anything for your pain?
Nurses gave me a bunch of pills. No effect. Told you. It's like the flames are under my skin, burning away.
Those nerves are getting hit constantly. pain meds can't even be absorbed.
Where were you stationed, sir? Did you serve for long?
I really don't want to talk about all this shit.
No offense. I was pushing too much. I served in France myself. I just wanted to know what happened to you.
You were an officer, weren't you? Then I doubt we fought the same war, sir. No offense.
I heard that argument for a while by quite a few, especially in the old days. On the one hand, it's cold, but on the other hand, it's understandable. It's like the upper crust get to walk on the ramparts while everybody else has to wade through the mud, blood, and shit. But on the other hand, one of the main reasons other than politics was because you couldn't afford to have commanders and leaders killed depending on how certain things were going. Otherwise, you subject wherever you were to the aims of 10,000 aimless warriors.
How close are you to Miss Horcroft? Are you aware that she thinks she is a vampire?
To wait for her next nibble is the best reason to stay here. Every time she approaches my bed, she treats me like something tasty. A normal person.
Aren't you afraid? She may hurt you if the game goes too far.
She's quite harmless, I can assure you. Her head's broken inside is all. Her arm busted on the outside. But she's still beautiful. Living proof that there's hope for me.
Well, she does have nice features. Thomas sees Thelma Holcraft as living proof that there's hope for him.
So do you let her bite you? You know that's not sanitary.
And why not? She's only supping a few drops of me blood. And the pain, it's real for once.
She could decide to bite less willing patients.
Then it's another good reason for me to stay here, Doctor.
As you hear, they tell you little reasons like, yeah, you could bite this person, but they're connected in these ways. You might not wanna.
You do realize she's mentally disturbed. It's called the Cotard syndrome. She truly believes she's a vampire.
In her madness, she never refers to my scars. And frankly, if I could, I'd join her world. It seems much more fun than the real one.
Ignorance is bliss sometimes. And sometimes madness is the best kind of ignorance.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
Sean.
See you again.
Good evening, Mr. Hampton. How do you feel?
Dr. Reed, is it? Oh, sir, I must apologize for my behavior.
What do you mean?
I was not myself in the factory. Fear and exhaustion made me say awful things to you, I'm afraid.
You remained perfectly nice and polite. A little delirious, perhaps. But who wouldn't be after enduring an abduction?
Thank you, Doctor. That's a relief. Now all I need to do is rest and return to my flock.
Yeah, you acted just fine, man.
How do you feel, Mr. Hampton? Medically speaking, I mean.
I feel exhausted. Beyond exhaustion, actually. William drank so much of my blood in his madness. I feel empty.
You're in good hands here. Dr. Swansea is well versed in blood transfusion, and I'm sure he'll take the best care of you.
Thank you, sir. I believe all I need is rest. And then I can go back to the people who need me.
I don't blame you considering, I mean, it's still the same night. It's barely been a few minutes, like time-wise, if you think about it. It's barely been a few minutes since we got him from William out to here.
Have you made friends since you arrived?
Not really, but I recognized Miss Harriet Jones. I knew her when she lived by the docks. That poor woman had such a miserable life.
You never came to see her here at Pembroke. Receiving visits when sick can be an important part of the healing process, you know. We're not just bodies.
You're preaching to the converted now, Doctor. To be truly honest, I thought she was dead. She left the docks many months ago.
I can respect that.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Hampton? I can't help but notice the cross around your neck.
I manage a night asylum for the poor and homeless of the docks, and I try to guide the lost and hesitant on the right path to our Lord.
Huh.
Are you a priest, Mr. Hampton? A deacon, maybe?
Not at all, Doctor. I'm just a man of faith willing to preach the good word.
Hallelujah.
Why didn't you use your cross against William Bishop? To repel him somehow?
That's a very strange question, Doctor. A cross is no magical token, if that's what you were trying to say. Not mine, anyway.
Interesting. And right there we have a connotation that it's not a religious thing that keeps vampires away. There's something else going on here. Maybe objects of power. Maybe faith in something else or someone or yourself. Maybe faith in the righteousness of your acts. Who knows?
How did you end up in William Bishop's den?
I had received alarming news about his recent behavior. I went to his place and he refused to let me go.
Why did he abduct you?
William was an alcoholic. His addiction suddenly changed to blood. I don't know why. Just like a patient I met here. This Miss Hawcroft.
You dared to enter this awful place alone. You're a hero, Mr. Hampton. Or a fool.
I'm just a man trying to help his friends, Dr. Reed. William Bishop was a conflicted soul, searching for light.
See, you'll hear him do stuff like that all over the course of the game. Like when he was talking to Clay about taking him to that better place. You dared to enter a place.
You dared to enter this awful place alone.
Dun dun
I'm just a
dun.
man.
It just fits perfectly.
Do you know Tom Watts, the bartender from the Turtle? I met him before I found you in the canning factory.
Tom? Yes, of course. Always the helping hand, good old Tom. Without men like him, corruption and despair would have wiped out the East End long ago.
I don't doubt that. He seems the type to care.
People are still in despair.
How could it be otherwise? The authorities have left us all to rot in this contagious nightmare. No drugs, no advice, nothing. It's a damn shame.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Who should I avoid in this part of town, then? Any particularly evil figures?
Not really. Most men and women are just doing their best. And it's not my habit to speak ill of people I know, Doctor.
Well, I mean, you could just speak, and if what you say happens to be true, and it also happens to be ill, well, there it is.
What is the general situation in the East End docks?
The situation has always been tough, with a lot of tensions between the gangs and the Dockers Trade Union. The Wet Boot Boys are very nervous since they lost their leader.
Who leads the gang now?
Since Clay Cox went missing, it's his wife Edwina who runs the show, with the assistance of her minion, Booth Digby.
So Clay Cox. Y'all noticed that though. Clay Cox, wife, and a Booth Digby. Now what you see here is the the Docks District. That's why you don't see any changes. These are the ones we met at the Turquoise Turtle. Tom Watts, all of that. Clay Cox, no relationships, despite the fact of having a wife. All right.
Has the gang been threatening you?
Ah, no. I've had this nickname for so long, you know, the sad saint of the East End. No one dares to bug a saint, not even criminals.
Yeah, they don't want none of that holy smoke. I don't blame it.
Goodbye, Mr. Hampton. We'll talk again later.
I said, look here. I want what's in your pockets, but God does not play games like that. we won't be able to get in there to speak to that individual for a while, so it is what it is right now.
Feel disgust on every street corner.
Once again, folks, sorry about this, but this episode is particularly long, and it is best to get it out the way in terms of the conversations. Otherwise, I would have just went straight to everything else. But talking to them also gives you context for some of the stuff you need to do out in the world, as well as what you can.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. I'm new here.
I've already heard about you, Dr. Reed. I'm Milton Hooks, the ambulance driver for this shithole of a hospital.
That's quite a blunt introduction, Mr. Hooks.
You can call me Milton. I like to speak my mind, Dr. Reed. Perk of the job. Don't judge me, and I won't judge you.
I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about.
Well, I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure a gun can't be used as a surgical instrument.
You have a keen eye. I learned to shoot during the war, and have carried one ever since. Old habits die hard.
No need to explain, Dr. Reed. And if you ever need a better gun, remember, I may have something for you.
Yeah, it's a precision tool. From time to time, it is used for medicinal purposes. The occasional introduction of ballistic trauma to reduce other traumas, yeah. As you can see, he
I'd like to see your goods.
Wise choice, Dr. Reed. A reliable gun is what everybody needs these days.
And they don't have use. We don't need everything, but he also sells a shotgun. We don't need that for now. We will need some of these parts. But for now, we're fine.
Good evening, Milton.
Good evening.
How is the situation around here?
You want to hear the situation is all right? It's fucking awful. We lack everything, and it's getting worse every day.
All right. What do you mean precisely?
Are you really smuggling weapons through the hospital?
And why not? I've already been attacked by patients, you know. And by gang members willing to steal my money.
But you're not defending yourself. You're selling guns to civilians.
You keep people alive your own way, Doctor. I offer them another way to protect their health.
I can partly respect that, but at the same time...
So what do you do exactly in this hospital? Apart from smuggling guns, I mean.
I've been an ambulance driver since... too long, I guess. I bring sick people here night and day. It's a dirty job, but I get it done. Most of the time.
I can respect that.
Since you're on the front line, how is the sanitary situation in this vicinity?
It's a complete disaster.
No doubt.
It's even getting dangerous to enter some streets or buildings. Even the locals attack you.
Okay.
It sounds like things have been a bit rough recently. What's happened?
Yesterday I got attacked by the patient I was bringing in. I escaped through the hospital's garden, but I lost my wallet when I was running.
You left an infected patient outside the hospital? That's incredibly dangerous.
Go there yourself if you want, but be careful, Doctor. I'd rather not bring your dead body back.
Alright.
Why do you have such a mediocre reputation among your colleagues, Milton?
Fuck them. Nobody knows the horrors I've seen since working here. This city was sick long before the epidemic, Dr. Reed.
I know it's a difficult task, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the job you are paid to do?
I've seen babies left to die while their brothers were properly fed. Underage girls and boys sold to all manner of perverts.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. We lack words. So excuse me if I don't look on the bright side of life.
Goodbye, Milton.
Okay. Not many more to go, folks. Not many more to go.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I believe we're going to be colleagues.
Reed? Yes, I've been informed about your arrival. I'm Waverly Ackroyd. Welcome aboard, I suppose.
Does my arrival inconvenience you in some way, Dr. Ackroyd?
Let us just say that I don't particularly share Dr. Swansea's enthusiasm for hiring you. What we need here are reliable professionals, not overrated dabblers.
Ouch. Overrated dabbler.
If you have a problem with me, Dr. Ackroyd, please feel free to tell me.
Dr. Swansea has imposed your presence on this hospital without asking anyone's advice. The benefit of his position. But I don't agree with it.
I know we've never met before, but I believe this hospital could use all the help it can get. You will agree with that, I'm sure.
Oh, but I have heard about you, Dr. Reed. Of course, you can't say the same about me, since I have not wasted my time courting the press.
Wow.
There is no need for such animosity between us. Don't you think the epidemic is already enough to deal with?
That is one point we could agree on. And that is precisely why I want to be sure that you will be of help to this hospital, instead of a burden.
Sorry about that, got a notification.
Since your tenure in this hospital is longer than mine, perhaps you can tell me more about this place.
Let's just say I'm tired of the carelessness around me. I have always respected the skills of Dr. Swansea, but over time his enthusiasm has become displaced.
Carelessness? Exactly what are you talking about?
We're here to save lives. The people who trust us are not volunteering for experimentation. They're here to be healed.
I don't intend to run any radical experiments, Doctor. Even if I, as any good practitioner should, express an interest in pushing the boundaries of medical research.
Modern medical methods were created through audacity and ego. But there are rules in our line of work, and they're here to protect our patients.
Waverly disapproves of modern medicine methods.
I don't know what you've heard about me, but I have already proved my value as a practitioner.
I don't question your skills, Dr. Reed, but your motive. Is it money, fame, or are you truly dedicated?
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
I served in the war just like you. But unlike you, I did not use the wounded to play the modern sorcerer.
Be careful what you insinuate, Dr. Ackroyd.
I only want you to admit you used those men to improve your theories.
I can't... That's the thing about this particular aspect of the story. It's you effectively designing his backstory. You don't have context unless they came out with like a novel or something. No answer of this is a good one. The best one you'll get is the top right. Top left is the end justifies the means. The bottom kind of says, I have no reason to justify my actions to you, and you would think that's just you walking away, but he'll play the, so you admitted these were your actions kind of game. Best thing I can do is nestle in the middle. Knowledge is our main weapon. I'm not innocent, but there's no such thing as innocence.
Knowledge has always been and will remain our main weapon, and it has always come at a price. And personal initiative.
It is not a question of initiative, it is a question of integrity. These men and women have put their faith in us, Dr. Reed.
It seems you have bad memories of your military service.
I refuse to see this industrial slaughter as scientific progress. War only reveals the worst in men.
We can at least agree on something, Dr. Ackroyd.
It's true. Didn't have to fight in wars. Some of our worst aspects would probably die out, but there's always one sword that needs to keep another in the sheath. Civilizations always need their defenders.
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Somebody sure does get salty about the doctor he don't like.
But in the circumstances,
You always knew the words to calm the children, Helen. As for me, what a blundering idiot.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. May I help you?
I don't know if a third opinion is needed. Your colleagues are already arguing about my condition.
I see. Would you mind telling me more about your situation?
I'm Harvey Fiddick. All I want is to get me bloody arm fixed properly.
Okay.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Fiddick.
I'm just a regular guy waiting to get his arm fixed, so I can return to work and to my family.
I was more curious about what you were doing before being hospitalized.
I'm a carpenter, and a good one too. But that means I need both arms to feed my family, Dr. Reed.
Tell me about the doctors who are arguing about your case.
Strickland and Ackroyd. They both want the best for me, but there's a lot of pride there. Doctors are no different from carpenters, it seems.
What do you mean?
I often had professional arguments with rivals on a building site. Difference is, I disagreed about wood and nails, not flesh and bones.
I can understand that.
Are you satisfied with your treatment here?
Well, it's clear that I've chosen a bad time to be injured. Forgive my bluntness, but you seem overwhelmed by cases of the flu.
I won't lie to you about it. I'm afraid we are.
Are you sure you don't want to operate yourself, Dr. Reed? I have the feeling you're very capable, and your colleagues seem to think so too.
In other circumstances, you would be right. But for now, I don't think I can take on the responsibility. My apologies. Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
Things are a little complicated for me to be the one doing surgery.
Never could keep anything from her.
Unfinished letter. Pembroke Hospital, 7th of November. My dear children, sorry I did not write to you before, but it hurts like hell just to write these few words on bloody paper. Don't worry, Daddy will go out of the hospital. Daddy will get out of the hospital as soon as possible. As soon as the doctors fix his arm. In the meantime, if you need something, go see Mr. Chadwick at the construction site, and he'll tell him you are Harvey Fiddick's children. You remember Robert Chadwick, the big guy with the mustache who helped me repair the house doors last spring? Go see him and ask him for a few bob, I guess. He won't refuse to spare you a few. I'm sorry I can't work anymore for now, but we'll figure out something as soon as I'm out. Don't worry, everything will be fine as soon as Daddy's arm is strong again. As soon as the doctors have fixed my arm, I... ending. He may not be able to feed his family so long as his arm is still injured.
Good evening, Mr. Fiddick.
Good evening.
You seem worried about the safety of your family, and it's obviously the reason why your wound troubles you so much.
I cannot give up on my children now. They both need me living.
What about their mother, if I may ask?
She died in 1915 during one of the first Zeppelin raids. We never found her body.
Harvey's wife died during the war.
Tell me more about the death of your wife, Harvey.
1915. I was in the army, building workshops for the Royal Flying Corps. Helen was happy I wasn't sent to the front.
What happened?
The Germans sent Zeppelins to bomb the construction site, but they missed their target. My wife was bringing my dinner when the bombs fell.
Cool.
I'm sorry for your loss. So many died during the bombings. I served in France and witnessed the carnage there.
I would like to say that she didn't suffer. Truth is, I have no idea. I just know that I'm all that me kids have. Poor little bleeders.
How are your children after losing their mother?
They were smaller then. The only good thing about this is my Helen didn't bring them with her that night.
Yeah, it sounded like.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
My sweet girl. Reads me like a book. I'll never take it.
Good evening, madam. Can I help you?
It's my son who needs you, sir.
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. How can I help your son?
I'm Beatrice Goswick, mother of Mortimer Goswick. Could you check on him, please, Dr. Reed? I've heard much of your talents as a physician.
Yes, Mom.
What can you tell me about yourself, Mrs. Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
May I ask if you have an occupation, Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
Okay. Setting aside the anomaly, that kind of thing rarely goes well.
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived. But we had no other choice, considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothering you?
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a relief, but it wasn't cheap.
People save beds for patients who can pay. And Beatrice questioned the Pembroke Hospital's efficiency.
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reed. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
I don't know, why aren't you at the other hospitals there? I mean, she shouldn't be pulling that game, but that's obviously something she shouldn't be doing. But, like, I'm genuinely curious as to why all of y'all aren't at better hospitals.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
I don't have perspective. That's kind of one of them questions I want to ask everybody.
I will not let you down.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed. Can I help at all?
No.
Really? Why are you here, then?
I don't want to talk. My throat hurts too much.
I suppose that this pain is the reason you're here. Is someone taking care of you?
Yes. And no.
Could you at least tell me your name, sir?
Mortimer. Mortimer Goswick.
Fatigue.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'm sure you realize a doctor and his patient have to communicate, sir. Would it help if I gave you some paper and a pen?
Not really.
I see. Then maybe it's not just your throat that hurts, Mr. Goswick. Perhaps your sore throat is just the consequence of something more hurtful.
Yes, maybe. But I don't want to talk or even write about it now.
All right.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
Why did your mother have you hospitalized here? She seems convinced this is a bad hospital.
My mother just wants the best for me. She won't rest while I'm here. She'd go all the way to hell and back to help me.
Pembroke Hospital may look unorthodox, but rest assured you're in good hands here.
I think you are
You
legitimately.
have to convince Dr. Reed. It's my mother.
Yeah, I know, but I think you legitimately are in good hands, despite the fact of Pippa charging you, if that's true.
Is your mother bothering you? As your doctor, I can ask her to leave you alone if you would prefer.
That's tempting, Doctor. But you have no idea what my mother is capable of. She would tie herself to my bed if you asked her to leave.
Oh, can't say she doesn't care.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
All right.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
Good evening, Doctor. I believe we're going to be working together.
Dr. Reed. Dr. Swansea informed us of your arrival, but I could not dare to believe we'd have such good fortune.
Y'all saw that man sit down on that table. I know y'all saw that.
Such an honor, sir.
Thank you. And you are?
I am Thoreau Strickland, Dr. Thoreau Strickland. I'm a great admirer of your work, Dr. Reed.
Well, we must always strive to be thorough.
Please, could you tell me something about yourself?
I'm a great admirer of your work concerning blood transfusion, Dr. Reed. I run my own experiments. I'm convinced it's the future.
Y'all can respect it. Slow it down, bro. Slow it down.
I based my technique on my mentor's research. He helped me perfect my method. What is yours?
I'd rather not talk about it. For now, it's just theories and first approach. My process is purely experimental and unsuccessful.
As long as you're cautious and methodical, you may remain empty-handed, but you won't fail.
You're not the first one to warn me, but I am convinced knowledge is the main weapon against the ravages of this epidemic.
As am I, but like you said, you won't fail. But at least in the end, you will still be taking these things into account and doing your best for your patients, doing your best for the people.
What made you choose to be a doctor?
I'm not ashamed to admit you and your work have inspired me. I am honored to have the opportunity to work by your side.
It's always a pleasure to share scientific and medical knowledge with someone eager to learn. I'll be glad to help you if I can.
This epidemic may be the century's most terrible disaster, but I'm convinced that we, as doctors, are the only ones able to defeat it.
Could be right.
What can you tell me about the Pembroke?
Well, it has always been an honor to work with Dr. Swansea. But with your arrival, I can't think of a better opportunity to learn about blood transfusion.
You seem quite optimistic. It's a rare and precious attitude in these difficult times.
I'm convinced that this epidemic is a test of endurance and dedication for us men of science.
Questions remain about our capacity to resolve the situation.
True. Last summer, during the first wave of the epidemic, I used to joke with Milton about the extra work. We're not smiling now.
Yeah. You lose that smile real quick.
Do you need help with anything in particular?
Well, yes, maybe. I'm waiting for a batch of products I ordered for my personal research, yet my supplier seems to have vanished.
Do you want me to play the errand boy for you?
Oh no, Dr. Reed. But if you went personally to his shop, what with your reputation and all, he wouldn't dare to refuse the products I need.
I see. Well, give me the address, for I may pass by if I have time.
Check that out next time. Or at some point.
What do you think of Dr. Ackroyd's aversion to modern medical methods?
It's a shame he's so narrow-minded. Dr. Swansea taught me that science is about exploring uncharted territory. I'm convinced that's true.
With the influenza and all that's going on, you should put your differences aside, don't you think? Why is it so difficult to work together?
I believe that if Dr. Ackroyd had been the one to discover the transfusion process, he would be the first to recommend its use.
So you believe it's just a question of jealousy and pride?
Dr. Ackroyd is as proud as he is blinded by his obsolete concept of medical science.
He's not entirely wrong about medical science being a little dangerous, with not much thought being put into, advancement. There's a lot, if you look at modern medicine now, there's a lot of stuff that they sell us that is just wild. Take this, it'll clear this up, it'll give you 15 symptoms you didn't know you could get from a pill. He's not entirely wrong. Same time, modern medicine is modern medicine, and it does have a necessity. Certain boundaries and levels and things that should never be crossed or even skirted nearby, but I mean, there needs to be some sort of balance.
Tell me more about your willingness to experiment with new medical techniques.
Harvey Fiddick is a patient suffering from a severe injury that could cripple him if not treated correctly. I'm convinced your blood transfusion technique could help him.
What is it you really want? To save him, or to prove your point?
Fair question. I want nothing but to save my patient, Dr. Reed. Especially since I know Mr. Fiddick's story.
Tell me Mr. Fiddick's story.
Our first diagnosis was compromised because Mr. Fiddick lied to us about the real origin of his injury. He first claimed it was an accident.
But why would he hide such crucial information from us?
Because he is a proud father, ashamed of putting his children at risk because of his own negligence.
Negligence? I mean, maybe. It's hard to say. Harvey is blaming himself for his injury, and as you can see, we've maxed out his blood quality, so we can't get more XP than he has. He's topped out, so that's what he'd give us if we drank it.
This personal involvement could also appear to be a lack of impartiality. You must know that a good surgeon must remain neutral.
I agree. But that does not excuse Dr. Ackroyd's behavior, a man who did not even take time to converse with his patient.
Do you think keeping his distance was a mistake?
All I know is that I'm taking care of human beings, with desires, hopes, and fears. Not some biological machine comprised of blood, bones, and flesh.
I can grant that.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Oh, Lord. Okay. It should be almost everybody, if not everybody here. Okay, there's 3 more left. There's 1 I know for a fact, and the other 2 I'm not sure on. Well, 1. So yeah, there's 2 I know for a fact, and at least 1 I'm not sure on. There's 1 right there.
Thelma Howcroft said she was being watched by vampire hunters. Where are they hiding?
No.
I should investigate. It's locked.
He has the key, and in order to get it, he'll have to die.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed.
Always a pleasure to meet a colleague, sir. Especially when he was supposedly dead.
A colleague? Are you a doctor too?
Not anymore, sir. I used to be Dr. Rakesh Chadana. Now, I'm just Mr. Chadana, pawnbroker and humble guardian of this morgue.
What do you mean, you used to be a doctor? Was your license revoked?
No, sir. It is just that I like to be precise. I run a little pawn shop while taking care of the dead. But I used to be a real doctor.
Interesting. And what does that entail? As you can see, of course, he runs his pawn shop.
A pawnbroker? I expect you get all types of people here.
Yes, sir. All kind of people. For I sell all kind of goods.
Who comes here to trade with you? It's very unhygienic, even unsafe. Diseases can spread. For the customers, for the hospital.
I'm very cautious, sir. I've been a doctor, remember? And all my clients are good people. In fact, I think I only know good people.
You exist on planet Earth. So unless you've been making it a point to ignore most of who you deal with, or unless you somehow are connected to the best of the Brady Bunch, it ain't happening.
What kind of goods?
With the quarantine, it's not always easy to buy things. So I trade, I exchange. Some people sell, some others buy. I like to help.
Middleman. I can respect that. He actually likes to be the middleman. Always some kickback. Always some trickle down.
Have we met before?
I don't think so, sir. Why?
When we first talked, you said you were glad to meet me since I was reported dead.
Funny story, sir. Your sister came here a few nights ago. You were missing, and she was looking for your body. She must be very relieved now.
Yeah. She has a great deal of relief. And doesn't really have to think about anything else in terms of this. Yeah.
Are you afraid or uneasy being surrounded by so many corpses?
Why should I? These bodies are empty vessels. Flesh left to decay. Poof. No soul anymore. All gone.
I probably agree with that. Once I'm dead, my flesh is my flesh. I don't exactly want anybody to resort to cannibalism, but, you know, if you can use my bones to keep you alive from some creature or something while I'm dead, I mean, I'm not mad at it. Roll through my pockets, see what you can get. It might be useful to you. Here's hoping it can help you out.
How did you get this job?
After I left the army, I worked as an undertaker down by the docks. A dangerous place with many an unpleasant business there. Milton Hooks helped me get a job here.
Good. Memory serves, we heard about those wet boot boys in the docks often, so, yeah.
An interesting point of view. And quite an exotic one, too. Most people fear, or at least have a respect, for dead flesh.
Sir, as a medic during the war, I learned to face my death and the death of others. It's the pain we have to tame, not death itself.
I have no problem respecting the dead flesh of the individual. That's why we bury people or, things like that. That doesn't bother me, but the soul is gone. At this point, the reverence you have is for the memory of what the flesh was, the memory of that person. You respect the flesh, you respect the soul. But if it comes down to the two, the soul wins every time. Rakesh is not afraid of death since he served as a medic. So what you're saying is that he can die. Okay.
Do you work here alone?
Yes, very easy work, sir. All I have to do is watch a few bodies. The situation was very different when the main morgue was still open.
I think about it when I played this drinking people's blood. I do not remember who I killed. It wasn't him.
Why close the hospital's main morgue?
It was for sanitary reasons after the beginning of the epidemic. Cadavers had to be moved to the nearest mass grave.
Jesus. Wow, there's corpses getting rained on as we speak. Yeah, they're under tarps, but those tarps ain't waterproof and they're on the ground.
Why do you have to watch these bodies?
Because these poor fellows have no names. We keep them in case someone comes looking for the missing. Sadly, very rarely happens.
John Doe's. Okay.
Since you're not afraid of dying, do you believe in life after death, Rakesh?
No. I believe we must do all the good we can while alive. For our time is short, and the obstacles are endless.
Do you think you would enjoy immortality as a concept?
I don't think so. Don't mistake me. I love life, and I'd like to live a long life. But everything has to decay, sir. Even goodwill.
This is true. Hold on. There was something I missed.
Since you're not afraid of dying.
No. I believe we must do...
Do you think you would...
I don't think so.
Right. He doesn't believe in life after death, but believes that we have to do all that we can in this life. I partly believe that. I do believe that there is a life after death, but beyond that, I do also believe that we do need to do as much as we can in this life. What we do will carry over in little ways for us. So, yeah. Don't exactly do what you do because you want it to carry over for you so much as you want to pay it forward.
Do you really believe goodwill cannot last?
As I said, sir, everything decays. If I was to never die, goodness, I would be bored or worse. And I like to be helpful, sir.
Quite depressing, wouldn't you say?
Yes, but the good news is we'll all die before losing our humanity, sir.
I don't disagree. It's one of the reasons why immortality has never really appealed to me. Like, living immortality. I knew full well what I would deal with. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing what, like, the next 130 years look like, honestly. But beyond that, no. I have no desire to live forever. I never have. It's like that Highlander song, who wants to live forever? I don't. I do want to see what the next century plus looks like, but beyond that, that's their time. That's their soil. That's their sun. That's their moon. Those are their stars, and those are their tragedies and wonderful pieces of history. We all have ours. You think 100 years from now about some of the wonderful things that we do nowadays, and they'll look at us like we were crazy. Same thing we do with people who came before us. It's not everything we do it with, but, you know.
So you're ready to die?
No, I am not. I don't fear death, for I won't see it. What troubles me is the pain my death will inflict to those I know.
You're a wise man, Mr. Chidana.
No, Dr. Reed. I am a foolish man. But I like to think otherwise.
See, that's the kind of person you can get drunk and have a bunch of conversations with. Odds are you'll get somewhere.
Please show me what you have to sell.
Of course. It's just trinkets and curios, really. But I'm sure they can be useful.
They can always be useful, my friend. An enigmatic formula. Formula written on a piece of paper seems complex and needs to be just analyzed. I'll be back for that. Opium and codeine. And yes, you did just hear me say opium. Yep, he got carrying around some of that copium. Hey there, guy. Where you going?
I'm sorry you ended up on my plain and cold medical bench, sir. I understand you must be very angry about this unfair situation. I managed to arrange...
There we go.
You don't mind if I search your pockets, do you, sir? You won't need any of these anyway. I'm not stealing from you, mister. I'm only redistributing your belongings to people who need them more than you. You see, no one has claimed your body, sir, so it would be such a shame to bury you with your valuables. I will not forget you, sir, and I thank you for your generous donation.
And now you know where his pawn shop comes from. Now whether that's the only place, I don't know, but now you know where his pawn shop comes from. Rakesh steals from the dead he is responsible for. Rakesh.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Such a pleasure to see you again.
Was gonna head up to my room, and then he started his thing. I was kind of hoping he would, though.
How dare you steal from the dead, Rakesh? Is that what your pawnbrokers is really about?
These people are dead, sir. What they possessed could be useful for the living. And I'm sure they would agree if they could speak.
Now, again, don't just go rooting around in my pockets, and that also don't mean don't try and save me. But if I'm dead and I can help you, hey, I'm not mad. Just be careful with how I'm supposed to be helping you. Don't be weird.
You should show respect for the dead. What about their loved ones who may treasure these items you sell?
The bodies I watch over are the unwanted and undesired, sir. I would never deprive anyone of their family artifacts.
You assume they're unwanted and undesired.
How dare you see?
Because nobody's come for them. I get you have a certain time limit.
To sell.
Of course.
Depending on what it is they do with those corpses, I get it, but like, Jesus. Okay. Well, they've closed that door. Now, when you're in the Pembroke, this is something I should have stated earlier, you can't use your powers. So I can't do any vampiric dashing or anything like that. All I have is my sight. Beyond sight. Jesus, they just keep throwing these at me. Kind of thought she'd start this after I left their talk.
How can I be sure I'll not find your unconscious body in the house again?
I promise you, you'll not find my unconscious body.
For God's sake, how can you say such a thing?
How can you refuse to listen? I tried to warn you for so long.
No, I won't let my only son die. You promised me you'll stay alive.
Your son lied to you, like the whole world lies to us.
Mortimer intends to take his own life. Man, at no time do I consider suicide to be a funny or comedic or nonsensical, well, useless thing, but I do consider it to be nonsensical. Not in the sense of it not being real, but in the sense of why deprive yourself and those who care about you of your presence? Why deprive the world? And 8 times out of 10 is selfish, and the other 2 times is some sort of medical something. So it's actually like understandable.
So many deaths.
But otherwise, it's just, for lack of a better word, soft. But let's see.
Good evening, Doctor. How is my son doing?
Your son wished to die, Beatrice. Why did you hide such crucial information?
Are you not aware suicide is a crime? Mortimer could be thrown in jail.
Whew. Shit. Well, that is not something I was aware of. I obviously forgot that.
I can't let that happen. I won't.
I understand you fear the legal consequences, Mrs. Goswick. But don't you realize your silence significantly affects your son's case?
All my son needs is help and comprehension. Not judgment and punishment for what he may or may not have done.
Sometimes you need a smack to the mouth in order to see what it is that's wrong. Sometimes you need judgment. It's cold, but so is judgment. I'm not gonna lie, you kind of coddled your son here, and that's part of the issue here.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
You're letting him get away with it. Setting aside the legal repercussions, I mean, he's your son. Smack him in the face. Let him know what's up.
Good evening, Mr. Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
I do not advocate for violence, but that is definitely an ass-whooping moment.
Admit it, Mortimer. Your mother had you hospitalized here because you tried to kill yourself.
Yes, it's true.
All right, then. This is the first time we've really shared information about your case. Shall we call this progress?
Call it what you want, Dr. Reed.
You can trust me. I won't report you to the authorities. My one and only concern is your health.
I guess I should thank you then.
Hey, progress upon progress. I'll take it.
Can I help you in any way, Mr. Goswick?
I wrote a letter for my mother. She was supposed to read it after my death. But I suppose she doesn't have to read it now.
I see. And is this letter still near the place where you tried to take your own life?
Yes. And I don't want anyone reading my last words. I mean, I'm still here. If you bring me back that letter, then perhaps we'll talk.
Why does it truly matter? If you're not overly concerned and plan to kill yourself anyway, then let whoever find your last words and be done with it.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Don't concern yourself another moment with somebody else feeling bad about losing you. You just focus on the fact that you don't want somebody to feel bad reading your words. That's where you should focus on. Don't concern yourself with being alive now and having to answer questions about the things you said and put down. Why would that be important? Oh Lord. Okay, I'll come back to this. What is that? Long letter. Yep, it's about Pippa. We'll come back to that. Now, since we finally talked to everyone, we've of course got Dr. Swansea here. This is his office. Can't really go upstairs right now, unfortunately.
It's locked.
Those double doors, I believe that's where Corcoran was taking his injections at, so. Dr. Tippett's, rather. Ah. Used hacksaw. A surgical hacksaw able to cut through bone. Indeed. Elwood's medical file. Oh, Lord. Okay. Stop picking up stuff. We'll have to come back for it. Bit of a lengthy one so far. Dr. Tippett, Strickland, and Aykroyd, respectively.
I cannot enter.
Nope.
This must be the place. It's definitely away from prying eyes.
Yeah.
Relegated to the shadows. A kingdom of my own. At least I won't be sleeping in a coffin.
You don't want a coffin? Why? I think they fit our frame quite well. Could probably make it float. Have it do a couple of other things. Have some bones placed around here. The works. Not even gonna do that.
The flower's dying. It needs water.
Alright. Crafting. First need to analyze the components you found. To unlock new recipes, click on the To Analyze component. A fresh sample of William Bishop's blood in a small tube. Analyze to view blueprints. And as you see, weapon upgrade. You now have enough components to improve one of your weapons. R2. Select your melee weapon to upgrade it. Excuse me, weapon upgrades. You can upgrade your weapon to a new level with the required ingredients. If you inflict more damage, it will inflict more damage, and you will also gain access to customizable slots. Don't really want to do this, but I might want to do this. We'll see. Work in progress. Upgrade a weapon for the first time. Ah, there we go. So here's what I'll do for this upgrade. Increased blood absorption. Absorb blood points when the weapon hits. So as I strike, I'll vampire blood out of you so I can use it for my abilities. Upgrade a weapon with a module. That's better. Small box of junk, recycle. Bottle of cheap gin, recycle. And then, of course, as you saw, since we analyzed this blood, we got this light regeneration serum. Regenerate 300 health points instantly, then 150 health points over 15 seconds. Those are consumables. We have to refill those as we go.
William Bishop's blood is much more unstable than human blood and shows extensive mutation. But this is not what happened to me. I must keep on searching. The sun is about to rise. I can feel it. I'll continue tomorrow night. I have so much time now.
Yeah, it was a weird cutoff point. But that's gonna be the end of a extremely long talking episode of Vampyr on the PS5, folks. If y'all like what you see and want to see more of me, give me a like, follow, subscribe here on YouTube, both. Drop a comment, check out some of the other playlists, share around some of the other playlists, bang the bell. Follow the links to my Twitch to get to my YouTube. Follow the links to my YouTube to get to my Twitch. And wherever you folks happen to be, have yourselves a good morning, afternoon, evening, or night. and God bless you.